A player covers his mouth, a referee reaches into his pocket, and just like that, football changes forever. It happened on June 20th, 2026, Group D, Paraguay versus Türkiye. Miguel Almirón, a man who has spent over a decade in professional football, who has played in Premier League derbies, who has represented his nation on the biggest stages, covers his mouth during a heated exchange near midfield. Referee Ivan Barton doesn't hesitate. Straight red, no yellow, no warning, just gone. And in that single moment, the sport crossed a line it has never crossed before. But here is the thing nobody is asking loudly enough. What exactly did Almirón say? Because that is the entire point of this rule. We will never know. And FIFA and the entire footballing world has decided that is precisely the problem. Let's go back to February 2026, because that is where this story actually begins. The Champions League, Benfica versus Real Madrid. The kind of match that fills arenas and breaks the internet. But it wasn't a goal or a red card that dominated the post-match conversation. It was an allegation. Vinícius Júnior, Brazil's most electrifying attacker, a man who has spent years publicly fighting racism in Spanish football, accused Benfica's Gianluca Prestiani of directing a racially charged remark at him. Not shouted across the pitch, whispered, with a hand covering the mouth, a deliberate shield from cameras, from microphones, from lip readers, from any possible record of what was said. Investigators looked at the footage. They reviewed every camera angle. And they came to a conclusion that should make every fan of this sport deeply uncomfortable. There was no provable evidence. The hand had done its job. The mouth cover had worked as a tool, not of privacy, but of impunity. Now here is what makes this case remarkable. Within weeks, the International Football Association Board, the body that writes the laws of the game, was in Vancouver for its annual general meeting. And rather than debate the issue for years the way football bodies usually do, they acted fast. Unanimously, Gianni Infantino, FIFA's president, delivered the line that crystallized the entire argument. If you do not have something to hide, you don't hide your mouth when you say something. By April 2026, the amendment was approved. The rule had a nickname before it even had a tournament to be applied in: the Vinícius Law. The rule itself is narrower than most people realize, and that nuance is important. It does not ban players from talking. It does not ban players from cupping their mouths to whisper tactical instructions to teammates. It does not even ban players from covering their mouths in general conversation during a match. The trigger is one specific scenario: a player covering their mouth while confronting an opponent. That is the moment a straight red card can be issued. No yellow, no warning, no second chance, and no replacement allowed. The team drops to 10 men and stays there. And Almirón's case does not make the referee's job look any easier. Paraguay still won the match 1-0. They did it with 10 men. They held on. And Türkiye, already struggling in the group, were effectively eliminated. A World Cup campaign ended in part because a referee looked at a player's hand position and made a judgment call that will be debated for months. Was it right? Was it fair? Was the incident genuinely a confrontational mouth cover? Or was it a reflex? The kind of thing thousands of players do every match without thinking. Ask 10 analysts and you will get 10 different answers. But zoom out, and the logic behind this rule becomes harder to dismiss. For years, the most insidious form of abuse in football, the whisper, the taunt delivered up close and quietly enough to be deniable, operated in a gray zone the sport simply could not navigate. No audio, no lip-reading footage, no proof. Just an allegation and a denied accusation. The mouth-covering rule represents football's attempt to close that gray zone by removing the tool entirely. You cannot conceal abuse if you are not allowed to conceal your mouth. The logic is blunt, deliberately so. But blunt instruments in a sport as fast and emotional and physical as football inevitably catch things they were not aimed at. Almirón may have been the first player sent off under this rule. He almost certainly will not be the last, and not every case will be as clear-cut as the rule's architects hoped. Here is the question that this tournament and this rule forces us to sit with. Football has chosen the principle of accountability over the principle of proof.
It has said that the risk of concealed abuse is serious enough that it justifies removing the cover entirely, even if that means some players get punished not for what they said, but for how they held their hand. Is that the right trade-off? Is a sport that cannot prove its way out of a racism problem justified in preventing the conditions that make abuse unprovable in the first place? And here is what I want you to tell me in the comments. Do you think the Vinícius Law is the right call? Do you think Almirón deserved that red card? Or do you think football has handed referees a power they were never equipped to use fairly, and that we are going to spend the rest of this World Cup watching the consequences play out in real time?